Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to a new video on the channel, and today I've got for you a few very very interesting and also unexplainable stories. So as always, sit back, relax, and let's get into them. I asked my friend, "What's the worst thing you've been through?" Submitted by Tumbleweed Passes. A few years ago, a friend of mine was caught up in a slew of messages from a time when smartphones weren't a big thing and email wasn't a feature on everyone's phones. This topic came up when we were discussing the worst thing we've ever gone through, and my friend went quiet before pulling out her phone to present the chain of emails. This is what she showed me. Sunday, 5th of July, 1453. From Helen PC to Mia Home. Subject: Apologies. Hi Mia. Sorry I couldn't make it to the party yesterday. Won't go into the details, but I had a really bad mental health day. Grant rushed me to the doctors, who prescribed me some new pills to try for 9 months and suggested I start therapy as soon as possible, which I'll hold off on until October as I'm so busy. Hope you and the gang had a great time, and I've still got your present here for next time I'm in town. Best wishes, Helen. Monday, 6 July, 12:17. From Helen PC to Mia Home. Subject: Unlucky day. Hi Mia, you won't believe the weekend I've had. Me and Grant had a huge, very heated argument Sunday night while cooking, which resulted in me slapping him, something I've never done. But he was being so hostile towards me, I never seen him look so evil. He locked himself in the study for the rest of the night and I felt awful. Then, on my way to work, a huge deer runs out in front of the car and I swerve and hit a tree. Thankfully I'm fine, but the car is in bad shape and Grant didn't even answer the phone, even though he works from home. I had to call work and ask to work from home for a while whilst the car being fixed. I'm hoping Bobby's garage can fix it like they fixed yours when you went down the ditch. I'll figure out how to send you the dashcam footage of the deer once I get the car back. It was massive. Hope you're having a better time than me. Miss you, Helen. Tuesday, 7th July, 1704. From Helen PC to Mia Home. Subject: Husband problem. Hi Mia, sorry to keep emailing. I know you're away this week, so I don't expect a reply, but I need a friend's opinion. Grant has been off since our argument on Sunday. I understand what I did was very wrong, but I've apologized and it wasn't very hard. He usually likes to cook us both dinner, but he's only been making food for himself. He's usually first in bed and last to get up, but now he just stays locked in his study all morning and evening. Then his hygiene has done a 180. He usually enjoys a shower every evening and keeps the house spotless, but now he leaves dishes and washing up for me, hasn't bathed since Sunday. He also whispers threats of violence in my ear when I'm doing something. I mean, does your husband ever do this after a fight? Is this his way of getting back at me? I don't know what to do. He just looks at me with such evil in his eyes now. Chat soon. Helen. Wednesday, 8th July, 1928. From Helen PC to Mia Home. Subject: Fuming. Hi Mia, just me again for the daily rant. It's a nightmare living out here without a car. I feel so isolated. What's worse is I'm trapped here with someone who's trying to make it as uncomfortable as possible. Grant has upped his game at trying to upset me. He's now taken to leaving dishes and food out until they begin to stink. I called him out on it, but he just smiles and laughs with that same hateful expression. I've decided I'm not cleaning up after a grown man. If he wants to leave everything out to stink and live in a filthy house, then fine by me. He's the neat freak out of us. I don't know where this hateful malice has come from. There's no love in his eyes anymore. Hope you're all enjoying your holiday. Send my love. Have fun, Helen. Thursday, 9th of July, 1847. From Helen PC to Mia Home. Subject: I'm getting a divorce. Hi Mia, I don't know how else to say it. Grant and I are planning a separation. I'm in tears as I write this. Things have been amazing for over 15 years, but one small stupid fight is what's ending us. It happened earlier today. I finished my work and went downstairs to find yet more filthy dishes and food left out. I couldn't do it anymore. I tried to open the study, but as usual he's locked it. I was furious and banged on the door. Grant ignored me, so I tried to pick the lock with a coin. I could hear Grant laughing at me, so in the end I bashed the thin door down. He was sent in his office chair, looking towards me with his mouth wide with shock. The whole study smelled foul, where he hasn't washed for days in this boiling weather. I laid into him and told him this behavior has to stop or I'm leaving. He continued looking at me with this stupid expression. I told him I guess that answered it, then and walked out. I expected him to call me back or come after me, but he didn't. I've shut myself in our room since, crying non-stop. My once loving husband has never done anything like this before. I'm devastated. I've packed a bag and I'm leaving tonight. I'll see you soon. Regards, Helen. Saturday, 11th July, 21:49. From Mia home to Amber at mobile. Subject: I'm worried about Helen. Hey Amber, sorry it's late back home. I'm currently at the airport in Greece on a public computer, but my flight's been delayed until tomorrow afternoon, so we're spending the night at a nearby cheap hotel. I'm very concerned about Helen. I've just seen the multiple emails she has sent me through the week. I'll forward them to you now. I've tried calling her and Grant multiple times, but neither have picked up. If you're free, would you be able to drive up to her and see if she's alright? She's quite vulnerable and usually Grant helps her with her mental health, but I'm not sure what's going on with them. Thanks. Lots of love, Mia. Saturday, 11th July, 22:01. From Amber at mobile to Mia home. Subject: I'll head up there. Evening, Mia. Hope you had a good trip. Yes, that does seem a bit concerning. I'll head up to Helen's now. I'll keep you posted. Amber. Sunday, 12th July, 16:12. From Amber at mobile to Mia home. Subject: no subject. Mia, it's Amber. I need your help, please. I got to Helen's around 11:30 and the front door was wide open. This was already concerning as Helen and Grant always keep the doors locked. I called out but got no answer, so I went in. The whole house was hot, like the air conditioning hadn't been on for ages, and the smell was horrific. There was food left out rotting in the living room and the kitchen was a mess. I then walked down the hall and the smell grew much worse. Then I walked into the study and I couldn't believe what I saw. There was a rotting corpse sat at the desk, its head turned towards the door and its mouth wide open. I honestly can't get that image out of my head. I fled from the house and called the police. I stayed in my car in the driveway for hours, just wanting to see what was going on and if Helen was okay. I've been at the police station since last night. I showed them the emails you forwarded to me, which seemed to help. The body in the study was Grant. They think he died from a stab wound in his neck from a small kitchen knife. But what I don't understand is they believe Grant has been deceased since at least Sunday. How can that be if Helen was with him all week? The police even managed to speak to someone from Bobby's garage today who gave them the dashcam. There was no deer, Mia. It just shows her suddenly swerve off the road into the tree. They also found an empty box of pills on her bedside table from the email she sent you. I don't remember what they were called. They had a long name, but whatever they were, the investigators said these were in no way what the doctor would have prescribed someone these, as they were banned due to patients seeing demons and evil everywhere and exacerbating any symptoms they already had. The medication causes severe delusions, hallucinations, along with strong side effects of paranoia and anxious moods. These pills basically alter your brain, essentially making side effects permanent if taken for more than 3 months. They're not sure if it's a detrimental mix-up at the pharmacy or if the doctor needs investigating. They think Helen stabbed Grant and he locked himself in the study, terrified, where he died. But she said she only slapped him, right? Oh God, Mia, tell me they're wrong. Nobody knows where Helen is, and from the empty pill box it's believed she's packed all the medication with her wherever she's gone. The police suggested she could have gone to yours from your last email. I don't know your address, so I'm not sure where to tell them to go. Please read this, Mia. Please don't go home. My friend Amber was in therapy for a long time after this event. Mia and her family managed to get an earlier flight home, meaning sadly Mia did not read Amber's email. Mia and her family didn't even make it to the house before Helen, under influence of the medication, emerged from their back garden with a large weed sickle and slaughtered the unexpected family on their doorstep. Amber has since moved far away from the sleepy town which this experience took place. Helen has never been found. People think I'm blind, but the truth is I'm too scared to open my eyes. Submitted by Rose85. I think today might be the day we get you to open your eyes. I haven't opened my eyes in 10 years. My therapist called optophobia, a fear of opening one's eyes. It all started in my teens when I witnessed my parents getting murdered. My life was no different than a blind person. The only difference is they have no choice in the matter. But I had to adapt to life as if I was blind. I used the blind stick to get around. I can tell the difference between different coins just by how they sound. I've learned to read Braille, but when people find out I'm not blind, they either think I'm crazy or they think I'm a joke. It's hard to describe the constant feeling of being scared. I live in a perpetual state of terror. It's like closing your eyes to the scary parts of a horror movie, but for me, I keep them closed. I've seen many therapists over the years. Some have gotten too close to helping me overcome my fear, but there is one major obstacle. I've been attending a support group for the past 5 years, and throughout those 5 years, people would come and go. Normally, to overcome your fear, you need to face what it is you are scared of. The success rate for this is high, but how can I face my fear if I'm too scared to open my eyes long enough to face it? I always found my therapist's voice so soothing and always wondered if the voice matched his face. I think today you need to explain to me what happened to your parents. I could feel the bile rise from my stomach and my hands began to clam up. I've never fully opened up about what happened all those years ago. It was my birthday and my mom had just finished cutting up the cake. I'm not sure where it came from or how it got in the house. I watched as it crept up behind my parents. It moved slowly but with murderous intent, a bit like how a lion stalks its prey before it. "What did this creature look like?" he asked. It's like I have a picture of the creature seared into my brain. I can still see it, even with my eyes closed. His eyes were bright red and filled with a murderous hunger, I explained. My hands were shaking and I could feel beads of sweat roll down my back. "Take your time. I promise you are perfectly safe," my therapist said in a soft, caring tone. It was frothing at the mouth, and he had teeth and claws that looked like they could rip you apart. The sound of my therapist's voice had changed to a more concerning tone. Are you sure it wasn't a man and not an animal?" he asked. "It wasn't a man. It was some kind of beast. People don't move the way the creature moves. And when it was done with my parents, it started to move towards me. I was struck with a paralyzing fear and couldn't do anything but close my eyes. I wasn't sure how long I was sitting there, but the police eventually came and I haven't opened my eyes since." I could hear the glide of my therapist's pen as he made notes. "I believe your phobia is your brain's response to the trauma of what you witnessed. It's protecting you from having to relive it. Kids process memories differently than adults, and in your case, saw the murderer as some kind of monster." I could feel a warming sense of calm rise up from my feet, flooding my brain. "I promise you're in a safe environment and there is no killer or creature in this room," said my therapist in a reassuring tone. I could feel my heart pound as I slowly began to open my eyes. My therapist had kept the room dark to protect my eyes. The sensation was probably what a blind person would experience when seeing the world for the first time. My eyes stung as they adjusted to what light was in the room. It took a few moments for my eyes to come into focus before I could see my therapist's soft, reassuring eyes. I always felt that the creature that killed my parents was always close and just waiting for me to open my eyes so I could watch as he ripped me apart. The fear was still there, but the room was empty apart from me and the therapist. I told you there was nothing to be scared of. I was about to rejoice in my newfound sense of sight when I was stopped dead in my tracks by the sound of growling coming from behind my therapist, a sound I had only heard once before when my parents were murdered. A feeling of intense dread overwhelmed me as I watched the same creature I was confronted with all those years ago creep up behind my therapist. It had the same red, hungry eyes as before, and pounced before I had the chance to warn him. My therapist screamed in the same agonizing pain my parents made as he was ripped apart. When it was done, it trained its sights on me, and before it could get to me, I shut my eyes again. You see, it's not a fear of opening my eyes, it's the fear of what would happen if I did. My family moved a lot. Now I know what we were running from. Submitted by Death by Kool-Aid Man. At first I thought it was fun. We lived in an RV, it was like an endless vacation. One week we were in LA, the next we were in Salt Lake City. We didn't know much about our lives before this. We knew we were born in Portland and that we could never stop moving. We always knew we were a special family. I just guess we didn't know how special we were. My parents tried so hard to have kids and almost lost hope. That's why my twin sister and I were so special to them. They're little miracles. It was annoying, but at least we knew we meant something to them. Amelia and I were fairly close, as far as siblings go. We were kind of each other's only friends since we were homeschooled. We felt pretty isolated. We never set up camp anywhere fun, no KOA campgrounds with ice cream shops and swimming pools, always driving off-road and living deep in the woods. I guess it was peaceful in a way, but anyone who grew up near the woods understands it's not something you mess with. The first time I really personally realized something was up was just before our 7th birthday, when we were staying in a place in BC called Kamloops. We weren't supposed to sneak out or leave mom and dad's side, but at the time we were a mischievous 6-year-old with a huge, unexplored forest in front of us. What do you expect? We waited until they fell asleep for the night and snuck out of the RV through the window, which was easy because the window was just a sheet of plastic held together by a zipper, and we set off, with nothing but a shitty lantern to illuminate the path in front of us. It wasn't long before we saw something strange. A glow, not from our lantern, it was coming from in front of us. It didn't take long for us to see who or what was in front of us. It was a lady, holding a small, homemade torch, but she didn't look much like a lady. Her hair was matted and fallen out in some places, her skin was almost blue and looked rotted, her teeth were yellow and a few were missing, and I thought you could even see part of her jaw. She was wearing a dirty hospital gown. I didn't know where the nearest hospital was, but it had to be pretty damn far, because the last time I remember driving anywhere with a paved road had to be 3 hours before we set up our camp here. Amelia and I were frozen in fear, and for the first time since we had mutually decided affection towards siblings was lame, I reached for her hand. That thing reached out its bony arm to us. It moaned something almost indecipherable like mo. That was enough to snap me out of it, and I sprinted away, dragging Amelia behind me. By some miracle we had made it back to the RV, and by some other miracle got back in without waking our parents. We didn't get much sleep and were too far shaken up to even say good morning to our parents, let alone tell them what happened. Would they have even believed us if we told them? Well, after what happened next, I guess they would have to. When we opened the door to the RV, we saw that the remains of what we had left out overnight, a campfire reduced to ashes, the sticks covered in a charcoal Amelia and I had used to draw on the rocks, and a makeshift table with a few cans of beans, had been utterly destroyed. It wasn't too out of the ordinary to have our camp ravished by animals. We lived in the woods after all, but this was something no animal could do. This looked set up like whatever did it had a plan. What we saw written on the back of the RV confirmed this belief. In the charcoal stick someone had written, "You can't run forever," on our trailer. Mom made us breakfast while Dad cleaned up the mess. We left shortly after that and drove for hours, not even stopping for quick washroom breaks. Mom and Dad spoke in hushed whispers as Dad drove. I wish I knew what they had been talking about. That night, I guess because Mom and Dad could see we were shaken up, they took us for a rare treat, a dinner at a real restaurant. A shitty diner, but a restaurant nonetheless. It was empty there, which was why my parents liked it, as they hated crowds. I was over the moon. A root beer float and a greasy cheeseburger was anything a 6-year-old boy could dream of. Which was I was so upset when Mom and Dad made us leave the second someone else came in. It was just an old trucker. I didn't get the big deal. While we were in the RV, Amelia asked why I had to leave while sucked in my bunk, a glorified shelf. Mom sighed. "I suppose you two are almost 7, that's old enough to know." "Well, Zachary, Amelia, the reason we had to leave is because we're scared of losing you. Do you remember what happened when you were 4? I had no idea why, my memory was never good, but Amelia claimed to remember. We were in Beaverton, not too far from Portland. She said that when we were 4, we were running around in a field when a big man in camouflage and beat boots came up to us and bent down to our level. We're not supposed to talk to strangers, Amelia said. She was always a goody two-shoes. I'm John. Now we're not strangers. What are your names? I'm Zach and that's my sister Amelia. We're 4 and our birthday is July 26, 2002. I had apparently said, but I bet Amelia just said that to make me look worse. That's when he stopped smiling. He roughly took our hands and started to lead us away. Let's go somewhere fun, Zach and Amelia. I need to take you someplace else. My mom got teary. That's right. If your dad and I hadn't caught you just before you left, we would probably have never seen you again. I took you to someplace safe, and your dad, I shot the son of a bitch in the leg. Hope he had fun crawling back to his house, he said coldly. Amelia and I shot each other glances. Okay, Daddy, I'm going to go to sleep now, she said, climbing over me to get to her bunk. That night we stopped somewhere for the night. I forgot where, probably near the interior of BC or maybe Alberta. I looked out the plastic window and I saw her. I saw that fucking lady again. She was staring at me and Amelia in our bunk beds, reaching out for us with that same long, bony hand. I rolled over and tried to sleep, but couldn't, knowing she was there. Life continued on like that for a while. Anywhere we'd stop, she'd be there. Washington, there she was. Nevada, you bet your ass. Montana, better fucking believe it. Amelia and I didn't really explore much anymore, partially because we were getting older and gradually showing less interest in that sort of thing, but partially because of that experience in Kamloops traumatized us both. That didn't stop the lady from trying to get us. Sometimes we'd catch a glimpse of her on the highway as we drove by. Sometimes she'd appear right where the fire of our campsite stopped illuminating, so we could barely see her. On the rare occasion we went into public to get supplies or food, I could have sworn I caught a glimpse of her in the crowd. Whenever she was around, I always heard that damn cry of hers. Moo, fuck that. After a while, she stopped scaring me. Well, as much. Everything finally made sense. The day before Amelia and I turned 14, Mom and Dad had left the RV and gave us a rare couple of hours of freedom as they gathered things for our birthday. We weren't parked ridiculously far from civilization, but I'd say a good hour worth of walking. We weren't that scared. We had lived in the woods long enough to know as long as you didn't bother the forest, it wouldn't bother you. And the lady in hospital gown was honestly more of an annoyance than anything else. I'd even go so far to say we had almost forgotten about her. I was reading, and Amelia was rummaging around the RV for food. I was getting immersed in my book when Amelia shouted out, "Zach, come check this out." I rolled my eyes. What could it be? We had lived in this tiny RV for almost 14 years. I knew it like the back of my hand. There was absolutely no nook or cranny I didn't know about. Oh, I guess I was wrong. There, under the driver's seat cushion, Amelia had pulled out, for some reason, was a box. It was small and a bit squished from all the years of my dad's ass sitting on it, but we could still tell what it was. Amelia excitedly reached to open it. Inside were papers. "Forget about it, Amelia, it's probably just boring documents for work," I said, but the look of confusion to horror on my sister's face was enough to change my mind. They were documents, but not for work. Birth documents, for us. But the stated parents weren't ours. It was apparently Zachary Jr., but nobody in my family was named Zachary. I looked at the father's name, Zachary. The mother was someone named Emily. "Maybe we were adopted?" I suggested. Amelia reached in and pulled out another sheet of paper. She shook her head and held out the next one for me with a shaky hand. "Infants missing from Portland Hospital, July 27, 2002. Twins, Zachary Christopher Clark Jr. and Amelia Emily Clark. Ongoing search. Anyone with information is to report it to the police immediately." Clark? Christopher? Those weren't our names. Our last name was Brown, and our parents certainly weren't Zachary and Emily. They were Jenny and Kevin. I had a feeling things were going to get worse. I was right as Amelia pulled out the third and second to last paper. Portland, mother of two, murdered in hospital. Emily Clark, 27, had recently given birth to twins, now missing when she was smothered to death in her own hospital bed. Police drawing of suspects. We looked at the police drawing. It was obviously not a complete match, but they were basically the only two other faces we had seen our entire lives. Mom and Dad. CCTV footage shows the two suspects leaving the hospital through a back door with the two infants. Search is ongoing. If spotted, do not approach these individuals. Alert the authorities immediately. We were silent as Amelia shakily grabbed the last piece of paper. This was from 2006. We were 4. After an Oregon man allegedly spotted the missing kids and was attacked by the perpetrators, a glimpse of hope is seen in this 4-year-old long cold case. Father and husband of the victims, Zachary Clark, shares this message. "My babies, I have no idea where you two are, but I will never let go of hope that one day I will see your beautiful faces again. You may not even know who I am, but that doesn't change anything. Until we meet again, Daddy loves you." We couldn't say anything. What do you even say to that? We just stood in silence for a while, then we heard a banging on the RV. We jumped and looked outside. It was the lady in the hospital gown, closer than ever. We could see her bluish gray skin, we could see her hazel eyes. They kind of looked like Amelia's. "Moo, boo," she moaned, reaching out for us again. I looked down to the newspaper's clipping, had a picture of the victim on it. I held it up to the window where she was staring at us. "Moo, boo," she said again. "Moo, boo, boo, my baby." All this time, she had just wanted her babies. Amelia stepped out of the RV. I was scared at first, but this day couldn't get any crazier, so I followed. Mama? She asked, tears in her eyes. Baby, she said, reaching her bony hand out once again, but she didn't run. She let her touch her face as she gently rubbed her hand across her cheek. She did the same to me, but then pointed in the direction of the nearest town. Go, she said. Go? Why? Amelia asked. Dada, our mother croaked. Dad. Zachary Sr. Was he still alive after all this time? We have 2 hours until Mom and Dad. Amelia cut herself off. They get back. Let's go, quick. Although we really didn't have any idea how to get to town, we somehow knew. Like something or someone was guiding us. We busted into the sheriff's police office, probably looking awful. First came the questioning, then the DNA testing, then they looked for our parents. Then they arrested my parents, then the news stories and the interviews, then we were flown out in a plane, my first plane ever, to Portland, to meet our dad. We were quite the story. They called my parents the wretches of the woods. They thought them as evil witches who stole us and hid us deep in the woods. I guess they were right, in a way. It was weird seeing them behind bars serving life sentences, because after all, they raised us for nearly 14 years, but that's where they stay. No running, no hiding. There's nowhere to hide in a cell. It was weird. He was my dad and all, but was he? I mean, I guess I met him when I was like a few hours old, but I just couldn't connect to him. It took a while, but we slowly got used to our new lives, in a house, with a bed and our own rooms, not running from everything or living in the woods. It was peaceful, although most of the time I ended up sneaking into Amelia's room because after all this time I still couldn't be alone. One time I got a knock on our window. We both woke up and saw the lady in the hospital gown outside, but she looked happier, less rotten, like she was complete again. Mama? I asked. Could she stay? And I could live with the family I craved? Like she read my mind, she shook her head. I have to go, my babies, she said, reaching her hand out through the window as she slowly disappeared into the night. We never saw her again after that, but we always knew she was watching us. But this time, we wouldn't run. Student loan debt is not what you think it is. Submitted by I Finch. I done fucked up again, said the face-tatted white trash girl on the reality TV show I watched, and oh boy, did she describe my life. I ate a bowl of ice cream, which I'm intolerant of, as I sat in my home, my parents' attic, after failing law school, again. The white trash lady and I were like, I fucked it up. I fucked my whole life up. I won't lie to you, if a man in red with horns crawled out of the TV and offered me a good, well-paying career, not a job, but a career, I'd take it. In fact, I fantasized about it, someone whooshing in front from above or below to solve all my problems, all for the low cost of my worthless soul. But guess what? Someone already sold my soul. While I sat on my bed stewing in self-pity and laundry that needed folding, I got a weird call. Some weird 888 number called me. I couldn't deal with it then, so I tossed my phone away. A few minutes later it buzzed again. I gave my phone a judgmental side eye and wondered if I had any friends who would need me in an emergency. I had a couple who might. However, I hadn't talked to them in so long to focus on law school. Doesn't that suck? I cut off my friends to focus on getting a degree, and now I have neither friends nor a degree. Next, I thought it was a scam. My mouth stretched into a smile and I snorted a single laugh at the thought of a scammer trying to steal my worthless identity. I hung up and went back to mopping. 2, 3, or 4 hours later, of me smelly and bloated and binging reality TV later, something woke me out of my slump. Bzz, bzz, bzz. Another call from the same odd number. I answered this time. Hello, am I speaking to Douglas Last? The female operator said. Yes, this is he. Douglas, my name is Sarah. I'm a paid caller from the Federal Student Loan Division. Do you have a couple of minutes to speak? Is that what this is about? I chuckled. Student loans were scary but manageable. Yes, I do. Douglas, you're defaulting on your student loans, and it's quite a large sum. No, I didn't say I was defaulting. I'm not. I'll pay it back. No, Douglas, we've determined you're defaulting because, based on your past history and how much you owe, we do not think it will be possible for you to pay us back. No, you can't do that. You don't get to choose when someone defaults. That's illegal. Actually, Sarah said, if you read the fine print on your last loan for... She paused and I heard her typing on her computer. University of South Carolina School of Law. She emphasized the word law and paused to show the irony of misreading the fine print on a law school loan, automatic default is part of the agreement. To put it simply, we're going to take what we're owed. My brain went into law school mode. Despite my lack of a law degree, I technically studied law for 4 years up to this point. I knew of and was close to mastering policy, history, and contracts. Arguments, dates, and court cases bounced around my brain. I flashed back to the mock trials with my fellow students who were always more aggressive than they had to be. 2 a.m. nights and falling asleep studying case law, and then being called on to summarize the case in less than 5 hours. My brain flew through the Higher Education Act of 1965, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, and the Borrower Defense to Repayment Rule until finally I had an opening argument. Okay, so the maximum wage garnishment amount is 15% of your disposable income. Not for you, she interrupted. We do not think you can pay us back. That hurt. Counter-arguments rested on my lips like rockets ready to take off, but I was dejected and defueled. She hit a sore spot. I considered myself an expert in failure. I was someone who couldn't win no matter what I did, and I hoped no one would know it. I felt so small knowing that this stranger on the phone saw me the same way I saw myself. We are taking what we are owed, Douglas, Sarah said. Now we have to go through a couple of verification steps to ensure I'm talking to the right person. Please open your nearest device with access to the internet. I slumped deep in my chair and did as she said. My body deflated. The ethics heat got to me. Salty sweat poured down from my face to my lips. I lacked the energy to swipe it away. What was the point? Soon my own musky stench became apparent to me, and I lingered in the smell. I went into an anxiety-ridden daze. The world around me shook gently and was mute except for Sarah's words. A mosquito buzzed around me that I couldn't hear or hit. I would smack the pot it landed, but I was always too slow or too late. Angry, red, and swollen bite marks throbbed in place of the insect. The more she droned on, the more the mosquito had its way with me. I couldn't hear it. I couldn't touch it. I thought about all the things I'd never have in life because everything I earned would go to a failed dream. Every click was prolonged and loud. Her voice was a constant, monotonous, never-ending drone that refused to acknowledge how frightening the situation was. I owed the US government, a country known to put money over everything. I remember how sad my parents were when they lost their house in the 2000 recession. They were my co-signers on this loan. They had just bought their current home less than 2 years ago. It all felt so fucked. When we moved in the 2000s, I remember my mom scrubbing the garage floor on her hands and knees, a floor we never cleaned, never used. It was filled with oil stains, cockroaches and boxes. Now some other family got to have it. I know my mom was fighting back tears, so she buried herself in the task and ignored me when I asked to help. The floor was pristine for whoever bought the house. Did I screw my family over already? Was the government going to take my family home? I imagine how pissed my dad would be if they took the house. He might hurt me. He's still bigger than me, much stronger. My body shook. My mouth went dry as I thought of apologizing to my mom as an adult. She still wouldn't say anything. She'd get to work repairing a house she just moved into for another family, for someone else's dream. Douglas Last, are you there? Sarah asked. Oh yes, I'm here. Okay, are you still seated? Yes. Douglas Last, the US government is selling your loan to one of our partners. They will take it over from here. He should contact you in a few minutes. Please stay seated and do not drive a vehicle until after the call. What? Please stay seated and do not drive a vehicle until after the call. Goodbye, Douglas. Hey, no, wait! The phone hung up. In the silence, I went back to feeling sorry for myself, until I thought of my mother's face, how she was a simple woman with simple dreams. She wanted to own a home and have a lawyer for a son. One of those couldn't happen, but I could make sure her home was protected and the banks didn't take it trying to get me to repay some debt. My laziness left and purpose replaced it. I could negotiate with whoever bought the debt. I leaped in the shower, scrubbed myself off, and put on a fresh white button-down, black sacks, and my best loafers. Look good, feel good, argue great. If some government spooks or debt collectors thought they could come and take advantage of some old people, I had surprise for them. I rushed downstairs, ran through my argument in my head in a few seconds and practiced some replies. Then I pushed the door open to my dad's study, a place where I always did well with interviews and where my confidence was high. It's actually where I took all my law school interviews. Then I waited for the phone call. The clock ticked away. My mosquito bites flared and the urge to scratch them grew stronger. The ice cubes in my water melted. The thought occurred to me. What if I wasn't receiving a call because all of this was a prank? I laughed. I laughed a loud, obnoxious, knee-slapping laugh. I laughed until my tongue hurt. First it stung like I ate something spicy, but my mouth tasted nothing except my own saliva. It was an odd feeling. I reached for water on the desk and gulped it down. The pain in my tongue didn't go away. It got worse. My tongue stung as if I ate something I was allergic to. I rushed to the bathroom and gargled mouthwash to prevent the potential allergic reaction. Once I spit out the green liquid, the pain didn't stop. It still got worse. The pain made me fall to my knees. My throat closed up. I was definitely allergic to certain nuts, and that's what this felt, but more painful. I reeled over the cold toilet as if I could vomit, with the agony away. I hugged the toilet bowl and begged for the pain to leave. The pain doubled. A single splinter sprouted on my tongue. I begged on the toilet bowl in agony and screamed into it. My voice echoed and filled my empty home. More splinters sprouted in my tongue. I rolled on the bathroom floor in pain and held myself because that was all I could do. I moaned and made strange Helen Keller-esque noises, afraid to move my tongue in a way that made sense. It had changed. My tongue was now a solid block of wood filled with splinters. "You cold?" my tongue said. For an instant I had control back. There was no pain. Everything was normal. "Please stop," I begged, and then my tongue was taken over again. It was like I was a puppet and someone was speaking through me. "No, you cold. Let's chat for a bit." The voice that came from me was grainy and impossible, like two sticks rubbing together. "We can start with names," he said. "You can call me Dummy." "Say your name, Douglas." "Douglas Last," I screamed. "No middle name?" the voice from my mouth said. "So it sounds like your name is almost Last. Prophetic. Who are you?" "I'm Dummy. I'm your debt collector." "What the language, Last?" "That's my tongue you're speaking with. And I wanted to only say nice things. I don't know if I could describe the pain of having your tongue turned to wood and filled with splinters and then having it turned back. I do not recommend it. Listen, Last. Oh no, don't cry. Those are my tear ducts. I own them too. Last, here's what's going to happen. In 24 hours, I'll own you. You're going to work in my restaurant for the next 60 years of your life. You will eat there, sleep there, and that's it, because that's all you'll have time to do. I have a plan to pay you back, and I think my debt is possible to control, and if you give me a chance, I can pay you back in a natural way." "I don't believe you," Dami said from my mouth. I was his puppet. "You're meant to be a slave." Is that racial? Spiritual, actually. Some of you are meant to be nothing. Black, white, brown. I can hear the bitch in your voice. You can't say that to me. You can't say that to me," he mocked. You don't even deny it. "You need to stop. You need to submit," he said. "You can do this." "No, Last, I can. I'm not from your world, Last. This is mercy for your world. Instead of conquering it, I want to have a nice restaurant. According to your government, I can do that. No problem. I just need to be selective. I just need to grab the worthless." My mosquito bites swelled, then burned, and I realized they were not mosquito bites. Tiny purple strings tunneled up from my skin. It was like watching worms burrow out of me. The strings wiggled from my flesh and grew and grew and grew until they went past my face and up and up and up, until they reached the ceiling. "Raise your hand if you're excited to serve me for 60 years, Dami said from my tongue. The string pulled me and my right hand jerked up. More strings popped from my skin. They reeked of rubber and puss. Puss-esque liquid flowed down my hands. In that moment, I felt he was right. I was worthless. This was what I was meant to be, a puppet on the string. "See you soon, Douglas," Dami said, and the strings disappeared. I had 24 hours to try to change my life, and this was just the beginning. So yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, leave a like, maybe even subscribe to show your support. And by the way, if you have an interesting story like this, make sure to leave it down in the comments, and if it's interesting enough, I'll even feature it in a future video. So have a good one. Peace.